Came out November 6th, doing quite well in movie theaters around the country. And Jon Ronson's the big star. He's the big reporter interviewing these guys. Did you actually go to the Middle East and run over people? I mean, did all of that happen?
No, that part didn't happen. Pretty much everything else happened. There's Peter Strawn, who wrote the screenplay, kind of added a sort of buddy movie element to it. But I didn't really I didn't learn and grow much at all. I was always a kind of bit of a cynic when it came to the existence of these paranormal powers. So Peter made the Ewan McGregor character have kind of more adventures than I had in the Middle East. But everything else is in the movie is
well, I get the idea.
Good.
I meant to go see the movie this weekend when you agreed to do the interview, but I just didn't get around to it. I do intend to go see it. But I get the idea from the trailers and some of the sneak peeks I've watched online, and also have read the book, that the film makes fun of a lot of it, but also implies there could be something there. Like he is cloud bursting. He is breaking up the clouds with his mind. There's some delusionals here in Austin that go out on hilltops and think they're doing the same thing. I mean, does the film imply that George Clooney really does kill this goat, or?
It doesn't really. It kind of toys with it, and I think that's something that's really nice about the film. You know, when you read my book, when you read The Men Who Stare at Goats, you know that my view is that none of this stuff works at all. But Peter kind of toys with the possibility that it works. But I think in the end, you kind of think that the George Clooney character is a kind of bit of a Buzz Lightyear, as a radio DJ over here called Simon Mayo described him the other day. You know, he thinks he has all these powers, but he doesn't. So when you see in flashback the goat being stared at and then falling over, you don't believe that necessarily actually happened. You just believe that he believes that it happened. So I think by and large, even though Grant Heslov, the director of the film, is more inclined to believe in the paranormal than I am, you kind of come away thinking that it's probably not true.
But everybody's had dreams that come true, or had premonitions of family dying or being hurt, or maybe everybody I know has. Mr. Ronson, are you saying you don't believe that there's any of this going on in the world, anything that we don't understand that's happening?
If I say, yeah, I don't believe that at all, I'm going to come over like the world's worst magic-sucking curmudgeon. But that's sort of what I feel. You know, I wish it weren't true. I would love there to be these other levels that we could all, go to, especially when we die. But I'm just not sure of it, Alex.
Magic-sucking curmudgeon.
That's me. That's my middle name.
Curmudgeon. Hey, well, you ran into David Icke.
Yeah. I saw him in the toilet queue at Heathrow Airport last week. And, like you, neither you nor David Icke particularly liked my book then because it was anti-conspiratorial. But nonetheless, it was just delightful to see David Icke. And we practically gave each other a big hug. And I sort of think, well, in the end, we may kind of utterly disagree, but we had a kind of adventure together, just like I did with you at Bohemian Grove. And in the end, as we kind of turn into old men, that's kind of the stuff that matters, right?
I guess we are getting older.
Yeah. And it's like, so the fact that, David Icke was very happy to see me and I was happy to see him, and we kind of buried any political differences and, differences in the outlook and the way the world works. And it was just, it was just really nice.
John, am I wrong in saying, though, you have, on, say, a scale of 1 to 10, we're 10, you're a 0 when it comes to believing conspiracy theories, that you've gone from like a 1 over to a 6 or 7? I mean, from what I've seen of you on television, or maybe that's the role you play when you're on mainstream TV, because they're so dried out and stale that you look like a conspiracy theorist. But when I see you on television, you seem to be admitting there's a world government forming and that there is some cover-ups and corruption. I mean, you don't discount it all.
Well, there's nothing I've said, for instance, in the interview to you today that I, regret. I mean, I know that was Bilderberg's agenda because one of the founders of the Bilderberg Group said it to me. That their original agenda was some form of world government, or certainly a kind of single community throughout the world. And I agree with you. I completely disagree with you that the Bohemian Grove ritual proved that there was any kind of weird Satanism or anything kind of really dark and crazy going on. But I agree that there was a weirdness there, that they were really, really into it in a way that I thought it was just nuts. And what I really like about my book, The Men Who Stare at Goats, is that it's sort of I think both sides get something out of it. You know, the skeptics like me get something out of it because it just shows how buffoonish and absurd human behaviour can be, which is sort of an anti-conspiratorial thought, right? Because conspiracy theorists need to believe that people are so brilliant and so Machiavellian that they can plot these amazing conspiracies. But I think what the Minister at Goats says is that, no, people are just nuts trying to walk into walls and do all this kind of stuff. However, conspiracy theorists like you, I'm also glad to say, like the Minister at Goats, because it does show that there's stuff going on, as you said, behind the curtain.
But just the term conspiracy theorist is been produced and is employed to automatically say this person can't prove what they're talking about. I was called a conspiracy theorist 10 years ago by several newspapers for saying the Gulf of Tonkin was staged to get us into Vietnam. It's now declassified. It's now been declassified that the United States government created al-Qaeda and the Taliban. You can call me a conspiracy theorist. I said the carbon tax would be used to set up a world government and to fund it, and then it would come after a controlled economic collapse. That's now mainstream news. So I don't get into chupacabras and aliens and dimensional gates and things I can't prove. But then I get mixed in with the people that do cover things they can't prove. But, you know, there's other conspiracy theorists that get hailed as our saviors. Take the cover of Newsweek. The thinking man's thinking man. Al Gore's new plan for the planet. A eco-prophet gets real. And it goes into saying he's a prophet, and his new film is about how it's a religion. Look, I happen to know there's not a consensus on man-made global warming. I happen to know the majority of scientists say it's a fraud. I happen to know carbon dioxide isn't a toxic waste. And then ice core samples show that the Earth had much higher levels of carbon dioxide 200,000 years ago. I happen to know that until 4 years ago, the ice caps of Mars were getting smaller. They're now getting bigger because the sun just cooled off into one of the most dormant cycles ever recorded in 300 years. So I'm not the conspiracy theorist because I track what NASA says and what climatologists says and common sense. When Al Gore points a camera at a polar bear and says polar bears can't swim, they're dying, when they're the greatest land swimmer on Earth and hunt from the ice flows, I know it's a lie. When they say my SUV is melting ice caps on Mars and on the moons of Saturn and Jupiter, I know it's a load of crap. Not just because I empirically know with the evidence. Al Gore and his people have written prospectuses up how this is all just a big business to hijack, control the entire planet, Jon Ronson.
Well, I haven't. I really, you can't get me to refute all of that in the space of about 30 seconds, Alex.
No, go ahead. You have the floor.
Way too much. No, I'm not going to. But can I ask you a completely different question?
Can polar bears swim?
I have a real problem with the 9/11 truth thing. And one of
are you? Oh, wait. Is that against your religion? In your religion, or if you're a fake greenie, do you believe that that polar bears can swim? Is the prophet wrong? Are we going to have riots? Hold on. Are we going to have riots in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and London if I was to paint a picture of a bomb on his head? There is only one prophet, and there is only one God, and his prophet is Al Gore?
Well, you know, Alex, okay. Well, as always, your kind of oratory is stunning, and it's something that I find kind of quite amazing about you. But I can't answer any of that.
Oh, come on.
And one of the reasons why I can't answer any of that stuff is because, frankly, Alex, I've been so busy with these other projects that I'm working on. I haven't really looked into the whole global warming denial movement, and I just don't feel in any way equipped to talk about it.
The denial movement. Okay, you brought up 9/11 truth. What's your problem with that?
I was just when you were saying all of that stuff, a little thought popped into my head, and I've always wanted to know your response to this, actually, so I'll ask you. It's built into the 9/11 truth belief is that, you know, the media, the mainstream media, people like me, just, you know, wouldn't be interested. You know, we just don't want to reveal the truth of the matter because we're all sort of part of the, you know, part of the conspiracy. And I think if there was any evidence, if there was any clue that 9/11 was an inside job, every single journalist in the world would just be jumping on that story. They'd be dying to. Yeah, I'm absolutely certain of that, because it would be the world's greatest story, you know? Okay,
so you're asking me a question?
Yeah, I'm asking the question that, you know, it's impossible to rationally believe that every journalist in the world who would have any kind of...
Okay, that's a false statement. That's a false statement. The establishment selects and promotes journalists in the controlled left and controlled right paradigm that already fit into the worldview and buy in to the official story and believe there's never anything behind curtains. Okay?
But any
hold on. There have been a lot of reporters that have gone public. They've been ridiculed or fired. Underwriting Laboratories, Kevin Ryan got fired, one of their chief engineers. There are policemen on tape saying, get back, they're going to bring down 7. The BBC reported Building 7 had fallen before it fell. Then they lied and said they didn't say it. Then they said, oh, it was an accident. Then they admitted Reuters had given them that. Just like the news media printed that Lee Harvey Oswald had been captured before his name was even out in Dallas. They got the names wrong because of time zones in Asia. That's confirmed.